Women Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Linda Crater celebrate the thoughts and opinions of magnetic, spirited, and influential women. Each week, bold, brilliant women spark vigorous conversations on the complexities of life, love, and happiness. Now here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Linda Crater.
Hey ladies, this is Sandra Beck and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Linda Crater, and we are spanning the country again today. We're going to welcome to our round table Kathy Craffey from Texas, Frankie Picasso from Toronto, Amanda Testa from Denver, and of course Linda Crater from Washington, D.C. And I am your host today, Sandra Beck, coming to you from Los Angeles. And today's topic is intuition. Now here is something funny that I thought about intuition. We are dynamic women. We hear the phrase women's intuition. Oh, a mother's intuition. How come there's no man's intuition? Like, are we the only ones with
Doesn't that explain itself? Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it explains itself. But one of the
intuition is an oxymoron, right?
One of the things that I found most compelling with intuition in my lifetime is that I pulled the trigger from my gut as a kid and as a teen and into my early 20s, and then something happened to me and I all of a sudden got so caught up in my brain. I didn't trust my intuition, and I don't know what happened to me. And then as I approached 50, I found I was listening to my intuition more. And I'm going to go to randomly pick Kathy Craffey first to ask you about your trust in your intuition. Did you always have it? Did you always embrace it? Or is it come and gone in your life like mine?
Well, Sandra, you're just so sweet to ask me that question because you know me well enough to know I just fluctuate. And so I've given a lot of thought to what intuition is. And here's kind of a working definition of what I think. I think intuition is common sense, God's spirit giving us direction. And if you don't believe in God, maybe just the universe, spirit of the universe, or I believe in God. Our natural instincts, like we mentioned motherly intuition. We all have this sort of motherly love and survival instinct, experience. And then I just think there's some just plain old pluckiness somewhere in our heart that is sort of like part of our intuition. And somehow all those things come together. So for me in my life, when I was a young person, I didn't trust my intuition because of bad experiences, I think. So, to answer your question, I think when you combine all that together, some of the pieces get a little bit warped and we quit trusting ourselves. I'm like you. Once I got a little older, I began to realize I could really trust my own heart.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Kathy. It's Frankie here. I think intuition is something that can be taught. It's something that can be developed, and it's something that we all have. And even men have it. But they don't, their heads are so strong that they don't listen to it. And I think that intuition, it's just, it's that ESP, it's that vibe that you feel in the room. It's all of that rolled into one. And so, when you might hear it or feel it or see it, and we all get it differently. Mine's a knowing. I just know, it's a knowing, and I've always used it, and I've taken classes to improve it and really get it as strong as I possibly can because I trust my intuition. I trust it so much, way over my brain, because my brain, is too reasonable. You analyze things, but your intuition, that's that, like you said, Kathy, the animal instinct in the back of your brain, the knowing, it's just there.
Beautiful.
I want to talk a little bit about pluckiness too, because I think there is something in our heart. And boy, Frankie, you are such a demonstrator of this with the idea that sometimes we just know what we need to do. We just know. And there's a pluckiness about us that just goes ahead and does it.
Yeah. I love too, Frankie, how you said that intuition can be taught. This is Amanda here. And I too believe, there has been periods of life where I'm really tuned into my intuition and other periods where I don't think of it at all. However, I've learned a lot of tools over the years to really listen to and personally, I believe my intuition is my body talking to me. Mm-hmm. So, you can feel certain sensations in your body. For me, that's how it turns up. And I'm like, what is that about? And sometimes I won't listen. And then afterwards, I'm like, man, I should have listened.
Yep.
This is Linda. I absolutely trust my intuition, and I think I always have. But as I've gotten older, I now talk to myself if I don't attend to it when I first get that glimmer of what I'm supposed to be doing. Sandra and I work together a lot, and this just happened a week ago. She said, we need to do that in a week. I said, no, I really have the feeling we need to take care of it, in the next 24 hours. And sure enough, we didn't do it, and 48 hours, and things were a little bit changed. So I think you can develop it. And the more you're aware of it, I think that you do listen to it. But I think you sometimes need to be still enough to hear it talking. Because if you're so busy and so tuned in, when Sandra said earlier that she lost it for a while or wasn't able to find it, my guess is you were just caught in the busyness of life. And creativity and intuition are really linked. And I think that when we are so burdened with things, that we don't give ourselves the time and space to believe that the intuition is there. But it's there. We just have to tune in.
Well, and I think when we have epic failures in our lives, like when I look at when my intuition was the strongest and I was the least likely to listen to it, and that's where I kind of fell back to, rationality, was after my divorce, after I had a premature kid with health issues. Like, that's when the doubt really creeped in. And, I got so disconnected. And this is one of the things I want to ask you girls. What is our intuition? Because sometimes I hear messages in my head and they're not telling me to kill people. They're good messages.
Thank goodness.
I hear messages in my head, but then I feel things intensely in my heart. And then I feel sometimes things in my gut. And what I've talked to my kids about was to do this head check, heart check, gut check. Does it sound okay in your head? Does it feel good in your heart? And what's your tummy telling you? Because for me, I'm 3 or 4 different, like a musical instrument that can play on different chords with different intuition. And I don't know if that's all intuition or if it's instincts. And I will tell you, I have learned to trust, as Linda Crater, as my business partner. If she tells me now she has an instinct on something, Linda, you'll back me up on this.
I am
going with it, like no argument here, because we all have different strengths and different instincts. But what is that? Like, Frankie, how does it work in your body?
Well, for me, it'll come in as just an absolute knowing. Like, it's just knowledge that's there and I know it, like it's just the weirdest feeling or to hear it, and not hearing it. It's just like, okay, I know that. Right. Nobody said that you know it, you just know it. And sometimes the gut is something that I work with a lot too, because I say, yeah, my gut feels, doesn't feel right, feels good. And so you can increase that though. You can increase your odds of winning with your intuition. And I know, Sandra, you are so busy and you're just running here and running there that it's very difficult for you to, probably hear a lot of the times when you want to. But if you're driving in your car and you turn off the music and just drive, you become in a meditative state anyway, because it's a hypnotic state. When you drive, you will probably hear some things when you start thinking about the important things in your life that you want to know about or that you want to check in on. But just as for everybody who's listening right now, if you just take a quiz, don't really know the answer, do know the answer, whatever, just whatever pops in your head first, do the quiz and then check the answers and see if you were right. And if you use the first instinct that came to your head, the first one, don't go, oh no, that's probably not right, I'll do this, that one's going to be wrong. So just do the first one, and you can keep testing yourself like this over and over until you realize, you know what, my instinct's right on. I can trust it.
Love that, Frankie. That's so great. Awareness is a big part of the problem for me. And when I find myself not able to trust if I miss the cue, I miss that little clue that tells me I need to, stop, just push pause for a minute. I'm moving fast, but I need to stop. And when I do that, I find myself, I had this happen this week. My son is home from college. We're so proud of him and so happy. But I knew his room was going to be an issue. And I kind of lost my temper with him, which I never do anymore. I mean, I used to have a pretty quick temper, but now I have boundaries, and they're so much better than boundaries or a temper. Let's see, which one do I want? So anyway, but I think that's part of it for me. When I know intuitively I'm going to have an issue ahead of me, and I get the red flag, and then I think, well, I'll just close the door and I'll pretend like it's not there. And in this case, well, that wasn't good. I mean, I should have listened to my intuition. I should have sat him down and had a conversation before I was losing it. So I had to go back and apologize. That's always a drag. But anyway, I don't know. Amanda, do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I like how you say, is it a boundary or really paying attention to if you know you're going to have an experience that you might be triggered, like your son's room, is to really take that time to tune in. And you can realize, too, it's kind of a compass, if you will. So if you're feeling really triggered about something, then you're like, all right, I need to investigate. Versus if you don't have that stress around it, or if you feel more open, then, that, too, is a sign. But like you said, like just being really aware of how you're feeling in your body. And then when you need to push pause and tune in.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's slowing down, you guys hit the nail right on the head. You know me so well. And slowing down and allowing this information to come in is really tough for me. I think it's tough for a lot of people. I'm one of those fidgety kids. I like those fidget spinners the kids have, because I have one. I have a Batman one, and I sit there and I spin it.
Me.
Yes, yep. Spin it and spin it and spin it and spin it. So slowing down enough. And I try to meditate. I try to do these things, but I end up falling asleep. So I can't wait when we come after the break to talk to each of you to find out, how do you get in touch with your intuition? How do we, because I do think it's there for everyone. I do think it's there to help us. But like the chattering monkey in my head doesn't shut up long enough most of the time for intuition to come through. And I don't even hear my kids when they're like, Mom, I'm hungry. I'm pretty good at tuning things out. So these are some things that I'm really happy to hear that they're skills, and they're skills we can learn. And this is Dynamic Women on behalf of Kathy and Frankie and Linda and Amanda. We'll be back after the break.
We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
If you need to lose weight but are not quite ready to make a commitment to an eating program, then cut 200 calories a day from your regular diet. This is an easy task and one that will start your weight loss. Slashing 200 calories from your daily eating is simple and very doable. It's as easy as choosing steamed vegetables instead of a loaded baked potato. Not only will losing weight reduce your risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease, it will also aid your immune system. A study by Tufts University asked a group of slightly overweight people to cut 100 to 200 calories a day. As expected, their cholesterol went down, but they also boosted their immune system response to disease-causing microorganisms. Cutting 200 calories out of your daily diet is easy and well worth it. I'm Annette Hammond. Visit our website at AnnetteHammond.com.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and this is Dynamic Women, and we are visiting today with Kathy from Texas, Frankie from Toronto, Linda from Washington, D.C., and Amanda from Denver. And we are talking about intuition. That's the name of the game today. And Kathy, you've got a great quote to open today's segment.
Yeah, I'd really love this. I don't know who Herbert Swipe is. I looked for him on Google just to be sure I was quoting somebody legitimate. But I liked his words so much, I just decided I would share.
Who cares?
I would like it. And maybe one of our listeners will tell us who Herbert Swipe is. And it kept saying, swipe your card, But anyway, this is what he said. I cannot give you the formula for success, but I can give you the formula for failure, which is try to please everybody. Isn't that awesome? So my thought was, that's so much what happens, for at least for me, being the extrovert I am, I just want everyone to be happy. But then I find my intuition has gotten stepped on again. And so that's problematic. I've learned over the years to stand firm on things that matter because my intuition is so trustworthy.
Good for you.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And I love how you asked how we really get in touch with our intuitions. Like, what are some practical tools we can use? Because for many of us women, I know for myself, like I have a full day. You know, I get up, then I get the kids out to school, and then I got to work all day. And, you know, there's a million moving targets, and I'm always answering questions and solving problems. And so the mind is just taking over. And at the end of the day, you know, I can have decision fatigue, but really for me, it's about getting out of my head and getting more into my body, and how do you make that connection? And so for me, I have a couple of tools that I have found so easy is even just taking 2 minutes. And let's be honest, most of us always have our phones on us. You can put that 2-minute timer on and just really sit and put one hand on your heart and just breathe into your heart. And even after doing that for a couple of minutes, your brain waves and your heart waves start synchronizing. And that is a beautiful way to tune into your intuition.
I could do that. I could find 2 minutes, and my phone never leaves my side.
That is absolutely true. I find that I don't have to tune in because my little voice talks to me. I know that sounds a little bit psychotic, that their voice is talking to me, but I really do get messages loud and clear. And the only time in my life when it hasn't worked has been when I have been overloaded, completely, I don't want to say depressed per se, but down and not paying attention. And that is really scary. Otherwise, I just believe it's something that comes to me naturally, and I'm very tuned into it at this point without the need for conscious reasoning. But I do love the stillness piece because I do know too that my intuition goes down and my creativity goes down if I'm not taking time for solitude. But it was funny. You had the quote, Kathy, and I have always heard about this dichotomy between science and philosophy about intuition. Out two scientists, Albert Einstein and Jonas Salk. And listen to how these sound, because these surprised me. This is Jonas Salk. It is always with excitement that I wake up in the morning wondering what my intuition will toss up to me, like gifts from the sea. I work with it and rely on it. It's my partner. Now, that's just very poetic from a scientist. And then Albert Einstein says, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. And I think what he's saying is that, sure, your mind and your intellect is very, very important, but your intuition is the part that, if we listen to, it gives us the heart and the mind and the soul to make decisions that are in line with what we believe. And I love that. So I just think creativity, intuition, all of that is all tied together. But those are two scientists, serious scientists.
I agree with that. I love those quotes, Linda. Sorry.
Isn't it neat? I love that.
They're really, really neat. Here, I have a quote, and I think this is a really good quote because I think this one really defines what intuition is in my body, in my head. And it's by Sylvia Clare. And she said, intuition is a sense of knowing how to act spontaneously without needing to know why. You know, like yes. You can't justify your intuition. You just know. Just like you knew. You didn't know why you had to act in 24 hours, Linda, but you knew you did, right?
True.
And that's it. Like you couldn't explain it. I don't know, but I know. And that's all you need to know is that you trusted that knowing. I mean, you know, why were witches so feared? Why are women witches? Right. Because of their intuition. Because they had intuition, and they could say, you know what, that's going to fail. That's a good thing. Yes or no. And you know, it's all built on intuition and just, you know, maybe common sense, like you said in the beginning. You know, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You know, mix up that magic and you have intuition. I don't think you always have to sit in silence with it. I think that you just have to be open to it.
True.
And when you have a big decision in your life, that's maybe when you know about it a little bit more than when, you know, throughout your day, nothing terribly important. Okay, yeah, you use your intuition. Somebody walks in a room. I don't think I want to work with that person. Yes, I really like that person. That's all intuition. you know, those vibrations that you get from people. And then on the big scale, you know, do I want to invest $10,000 in that project? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. My intuition is going to tell me. You know, because I can't just believe the banker. I have to know.
That's
you know?
so true. I mean, you especially see it in business. There are just times when you have to trust your gut because you really do need to make an instantaneous decision. Especially small business owners, we just see that all the time, and that's why it's so important to evaluate. I liked what Linda said earlier, Frankie, too. Not just about trusting our gut, but also that part she mentioned about knowing what our values are and being true to our own values. And just the whole idea that our body will even tell us what our values, when we're going against our own values. I mean, I think that's especially true. I think that was part of my problem with my own intuition getting as sexually active as I did as a teenager. I think it kind of spoiled it, like disconnected my being in touch with my body. I appreciate some of the things Amanda has brought to this conversation about our bodies reflecting what is happening in our intuition. But I have this wonderful, you know, me and my quotes, I always try to cheat by borrowing other people's wisdom. I just love it when other people are smart. So we had this kindergarten teacher named Loretta Van Cleve, and she has passed away now, but she gave us, when we were parents of young kindergartners, she gave us this quote, and I've always quoted her: all perspectives are valid, but not all perspectives are mature.
She said that in the kindergarten class.
Kindergarten teacher to the parents of kindergartners. I'm pretty sure she used that all year long dealing with us. But I think that's so true. We have to really know what our values are, or other people's perspectives will sway us in a bad way. And we're not mature ourselves, but other people are not necessarily mature either. I don't know if somebody wants to jump in on that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what you would say about the disconnect between body and spirit that can start as early as our teenage years.
Oh, yes. I can definitely speak to that. And I love how you're talking about like the maturity and, you know, where that comes into play. And I feel like a lot of times we don't realize how mature our body is, like how really smart our bodies are. And again, I know you don't always have to tune into your body to like get the clues. Sometimes they come as a voice, sometimes it comes as all these different ways, but our bodies do have this innate wisdom. And like, you know, that feeling you get when it's time to drink or eat but I would say the number one, that disconnect between your mind and body, is that's when it happens, is because we don't listen into what's going on in our body, what we're feeling in our body. And especially when it comes to intimacy, that is such a common, you know, problem that a lot of women face, that I know I did as well, is that we just can't let go of what's going on in our minds to get into our body to really feel. And, you know, and trusting that maturity that's in our body. So, I mean, I can share one more quick little tool that it's again, like tapping into the body, but this one is, you know, just really, if you, again, 2 minutes, just lay there or sit and feel what kind of sensations you feel in your body. Because that's the thing, is we get disconnected from our sensations. And basically that's all sensuality is your sensations, but really feel like, what am I feeling? Maybe I have a tickle on my neck, or I have a rumbling in my tummy, or I have a warmth in my right leg, or I'm feeling a constriction in my throat. Like just speaking out loud what your body's feeling for a couple minutes.
See, I think I need to do that exercise because I feel very little during the day. And I have this thing, like, you know, when we were talking about entrepreneurial decision making versus like, you know, getting in touch with your body, when I make decisions, and this is honest, I hear sound effects in my head. If it's a good decision, it's like Vegas. It's like ding, 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 ding. And I hear that in my head. And then if it's wrong, it's like, you know, like I hear these air horns in my head. And
I'm so glad I'm not the only one hearing things.
Okay, yes. So why are you questioning that that's your intuition?
Well, I don't know what that is, but I don't.
That's your intuition.
Like, I'm intimate with someone. I'm not hearing air horns or ding, 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 ding.
Well,
Well, that would be distracting.
That just means you're tuned into that person. Good job.
Oh, okay. Because we're not, like I always look for commonality. Like, you know, I listen to you guys for your commonalities, and it's like, what works for you and how do I apply it to work for me? But why is it so different if we're making an intuitive decision in work versus an intuitive decision in our lives? Why would that be any different?
The ding dings?
Yeah.
Well, your ding ding in business is, you know, loud and clear, but in your personal life, and I'm going to go back to something that Amanda was talking about, the body being a bioprocessor, because I think as a bioprocessor, it's a big computer and we feel things, but we can also line those feelings to the chakras, and we say, okay, I'm feeling it there. So what is that? How can I apply that intuitively to my life? What does that mean? Does that mean that, you know, my throat swells, like I can't speak about this, or I don't, or that guy is, you know, whatever. So I think that you can look at a whole bunch of different messages going on and intuitively weave them all together to know, you know, what's going on. So if you like a guy and you're not 100% sure he's the right guy for you, and your head is going, I don't know, but your biosensor down there is going, yeah, yum, you know, like.
You really do need to read Frankie's book. I mean, it will make much more sense.
Order it today. That's settled.
Frankie, what's the title of your book?
Midlife Mojo.
Oh, Midlife. And where can people?
And the other one is No Bull Allowed.
That's the one I'm talking about.
That's the one? Okay, No Bull Allowed. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take us to commercial break. This is Dynamic Women. If you liked what you heard today, you can find us at Dynamic Women Talk Radio. You can go to iTunes. Are we on the Good Radio Network, Frankie?
You are on the Good Radio Network.
We are also, you can find us on the Good Radio Network. And Frankie, where can we find your books?
On Amazon.
Lying down with your legs.
Amazon.
Oh, who's whispering? Did you whisper something dirty?
That was intuition.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll go back to our quiz.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, ding, 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 ding. I'm like, that one got my ear. So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about our intuition and how it works for us and what happens when intuition fails us. Because if it works, that's great. If it fails, what do we do next? Back after the break.
We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
Do you know someone who says a lot when they are speaking? Every language has its own version of In English, we might also use the words and Spanish speakers say a, and Japanese say eto and eno, to name a few. Even sign language uses Studies show that these filler words make up an average of 6 to 10% of spontaneous speech, and that men use them much more than women. So why do people splutter out these filler words? It's not due to nervousness, but rather, holds the floor for us while we do our mental work. It buys some time for thinking when we don't have our repartee ready. My husband says they call our language the mother tongue because the father hardly ever gets to speak. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
There is a definite difference between wanting to exercise and actually doing it. The National Center for Health Statistics recently revealed a study that found that 63% of Americans believe that exercise will make them healthier, leaner, and less stressed, but they still don't do it. Remember, 64% of Americans are overweight or obese, so you can see the direct correlation here. If you find that you are lacking the motivation to really get with it and get on an effective exercise program, help is on the way. As a personal trainer, I tell my clients to dive in full force. Buy books and magazines about exercise and healthy eating. Make a plan for when you are going to exercise every day. Schedule it on your calendar. Hire a personal trainer or find a friend who has similar goals and meet with them several times a week. Being accountable to someone else increases your motivation. I'm Annette Hammond.
Welcome back. This is Linda Crater. You're listening to Dynamic Women Talk Radio. And on the break, we were talking about the importance of intuition in just our general lives and how we use the word and the commentary. And Sandra, you're a tech geek. So I want to ask you something. You put together websites, you design them, you use them, and I laugh because websites are supposed to be intuitive. And a secondary piece that I think is supposed to be intuitive are instructions to put things together. So when I compare an intuitive website with the IKEA instructions, I absolutely don't think the latter is intuitive. But websites generally are. And so that's more black and white. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, but I can tell you, I have 2 advanced degrees from Northwestern. I've got a private secondary technical education. I can program in like 6 different languages. And the only time I ever started to really cry was trying to get one of those bookcases together with IKEA.
Yes, that's my point. It's not intuitive.
Parts left over. I'm like, what is this stick figure diagram? And there's like arrows pointing to things. And then to make it worse, it was fuzzy. Like it wasn't even clearly printed. And I have quite a bit of IKEA stuff in my home because I have kids, and it's great because, kids outgrow it, they break it, and they think it's fun to jump on a bookcase and snap the boards. I'm out $99, not, a fortune with this stuff. But what I've learned in my many years of brain work is that not everybody's brains work alike. And so the concept of intuition and thought processes, I've had to surround myself in my tech company with people who don't think like me. Because when I try to explain things to a client, like, they start to go into convulsions, their eyes roll back in their head, they foam at the mouth a little bit. So if I can explain what I need to explain to, let's say, Aaron or Robin or even Linda. Linda, you're so much better at clients than I am. And then when they don't understand what I'm trying to tell them, I get mad, which is why you never talk to tech department people unless you're wearing a bulletproof vest.
I love that. I just have to add an IKEA comment. One of the reasons I think that they name their furniture is because the instructions are so poor that they have to form a relationship with you. So when you're putting together your Johann bookcase, I'm serious. I'm thinking, I'm talking to the bookcase. Johann, what the heck part goes next? But I do agree with you. I think there are some linear thinking people, and yet everyone seems to have intuition. It's just a matter of listening to it and applying it. And sometimes it's more prevalent in certain parts of your life than others. So maybe it's more on the personal life for you than it is on the professional life. But it's
you know what IKEA stands for? I just thought of it. I can't execute anything.
I love it. I love it. And that's when you just call a handyman and go, hey, you want to put something together?
This is where you test a relationship, I think.
Yeah. You don't have to do everything yourself.
All right, Frankie, you're up.
I was thinking as Linda was talking, is every thought an intuitive thought? Doesn't have to be. No, it's not. And I was thinking another way that we use our intuition is to try a new restaurant, meet a new friend, go to a bookstore, pick a book, and go, I think this one's going to be good. Using your intuition to choose things is a really fun way, to play with it. And then maybe you're not how there's people who are clairaudient and clairsentient and whatever. Everybody's going to just as there are people who think in a linear way and in a different way. And so we're all going to get our information in a different way. And so maybe, your head goes, I like that book, and your body reacts to it. You watch your body, fall forward to it or fall away from it. There's a testing, that muscle testing that they do with, you can do it with anything, but you can do it with a bottle of aspirin or whatever. And you hold something in your hand and you can fall toward it or fall away from it. And your body is telling you this is good or it's not good for you. You can trust that intuition or not. It's up to you. It's what you believe, really. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that you don't have to meditate to be intuitive. I think you just need to be open and let it flow. And then know the way that you get it. Once you figure out how you get it, then you'll know when it comes into you.
I love how you say being open to just what is, or, what clues you may get. Because like you say, you walk into a bookstore. Have you ever had that experience? I know when I've walked into a bookstore and just been drawn to this one book and picked it up, and I'm like, oh my God, this book is exactly what I needed to read right now.
There you are.
Just tuning into that, where if you hear something and then you have someone else tell you a similar story, and then someone else mentions that same author, or like you hear this message from a bunch of different sources, you're like, maybe that's a sign I need to check out this book, or those type of experiences are so powerful too.
Well, I think that's so interesting what you're saying, because I know so many Christians will just open the Bible and see where it lands, and then later they'll say, well, the Bible opened to this very verse. It was exactly what I needed. So I'm going to have to try the bookstore trick. I love that idea, to see if I could just walk in and find the right book by being open and figuring out how my intuition works and how it hits me, like Frankie was describing. I really loved what you said, Sandra, about surrounding yourself with people that think differently. And I know that is something that we're just struggling with in our culture now, especially on Facebook. We can easily discount people. I mean, it's so easy to just hit the button that allows you to hear less from them because you don't want to hear their perspective because it's not the same as yours. So that's really working against us as a culture, I think. Instead of coming together more, we're coming farther apart. So what I me and my quotes, I have one from Henry Ford. My best friend is the one who brings out the best in me. And I was thinking about that in terms of intuition and how much I value Sandra, for instance. She just asked me the very best questions, and they're not leading me or trying to get me to go a certain direction. They're just letting me to explore and discover what I really believe and value. So I think a friend I wanted to share that quote on this program because you guys are that way for me. Y'all just bring out the best in me. And I feel like the dynamics of this Dynamic Women is that way too. We just bring out the best in each other by asking the hard questions.
I think we're just dynamic women. That's what I think it is. I want to bring up counterintuitive and tell you a funny story. I used to own a business that worked in, we created television ads and we screened subjects for clinical trials. And it was a very interesting, I love this business. But we learned that when we created television spots that you probably have seen, although they've tapered off over the last 5 years or so, if you have asthma and are between the ages of 8 and 80, call this number and see if you could participate in this clinical trial. So what was interesting was that it got to the point after we created ads, when we would screen them, they would screen them for me after they'd been produced. If I didn't like the ad, the entire staff would cheer because that meant it was going to be highly effective and make the phone ring off the hook. No, I'm totally serious.
I believe that.
It was very interesting, but I trusted that when I saw the actions of what happened, it was kind of an amusing thing because if I really disliked, it was going to be wildly successful. So counterintuitive can also work because we don't all think the same. We don't all have the same taste, and the same things that would attract. Clearly, I wouldn't be attracted to the ads I didn't like, but lots and lots of other people were. So counterintuitive can really help you as well if you tune in and know what it means.
Absolutely, Linda. And you're in a class by yourself.
I can
1%.
tell voices. Yeah, I can tell.
So it makes sense that you're not going to be the one that the masses are attracted to.
I'm a little what we call unique.
Yeah, you're unique, exactly. But I've got a little story because my daughter, this is exactly intuition. The other day, she was leaving the house to go to work, and she usually leaves here about 6:30 a.m., something like that. And she stopped, and she bent down and she dropped something. She did this, she did that. Took an extra 5 minutes, and then she left. And when she got to this certain spot that she would have been 5 minutes earlier, there was an accident. And she came home. She said, if I had left when I was supposed to leave, I would have had that accident myself. Yeah. And it happened to her like twice last week. And she came out, if I had done this, I would have been in that accident. So her intuition or whatever was working for her, saying, I'm going to take a different route, or I'm going to wait 5 minutes, or, whatever it was. And she avoided two calamities. And I think that's really important to listen to too. So sometimes
that's survival. Wow.
Yeah, that's powerful. That just gave me chills.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think many of us can probably relate to a similar experience, but I know that we don't always realize when it's working in our favor. And I like how you say about counterintuitive and when that can be effective because, true, yes, we have these biological impulses, but we also have a logical brain. And that doesn't mean we always need to if we get a urge to do something, that doesn't mean it's always right. Like if a kid's trying to chase a ball into the street, that's their neat urge. But then mentally we know, okay, don't run into the street before you look both ways. Right. So, paying attention to when it's something that you should listen to or when you need to actually be logical about it and when the counterintuitive part is more important. Yeah.
So what does counterintuitive mean? I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here in stunned silence.
Counterintuitive
it's the opposite of being intuitive.
Right.
Well, that's me sitting here like a stump in the dark. When the opposite of intuitive is just like having nothing, just like the lights are out.
Yeah, I sort of think of it as just the opposite thought.
So are we talking about intuition that gives negative feedback?
Yes. That's what I would say that's pretty close to what I was saying before.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're saying. So if Linda likes something, don't buy it.
No,
I didn't mean it that way. It's a commercial, just to the commercials.
But I thought that was so fascinating that I learned that was a good thing instead of a bad thing. And so for business, it was very, very successful. And I was very pleased to do that. But again, as long as you just know what the reaction is, because your intuition is there also for survival. So if you get a gut feel, you should get out of a dangerous place, not so much what your daughter was doing, but when you feel creepy. They always tell you, mind what your gut is telling you for safety's sake. So it is really important that you know what your intuition tells you, what you should act, how you should act when you receive that intuition. And I think it's just a matter of knowing yourself so that you are acting in a way that's going to get the outcomes that you're looking for. We have to go on another break, but we will be back afterward and we will talk about how to develop our intuition. You're listening to Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll be back right after these short messages. We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
To lose weight, we know that each day we need to burn more calories than we take in through eating, and exercise burns more calories. According to Discovery Health, a 150-pound person will burn about 60 calories while taking a 1-hour nap. 1 hour of sitting and watching television burns about the same. But if that 150-pound person takes a 1-hour brisk walk, then say goodbye to more than 250 calories. Cardio exercise like running, biking, swimming, and brisk walking are the best modes of exercise to burn the highest amount of calories and will get the endorphins flowing in your body. Those feel-good neurotransmitters boost your mood naturally. So use exercise to burn calories, lose weight, and to feel good. I'm Annette Hammond. To hear other fitness and weight loss tips, visit our website at AnnetteHammond.com.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
If you are a woman and have always longed for lean legs, tight buttocks, sinewy arms, and a stately posture, then barre classes may be just what you're looking for. The Barre Method program focuses on elongating muscles and burning fat, and some think it's similar to interval training because the body switches from intense exercise to stretching, which results in sculpted muscles and an increase in the burning of fat calories. The routine is made to give everyone access to a ballerina body. This ballet-based workout is becoming very popular, and according to the New York Times, it is a tough exercise routine. Seasoned ballerinas and even top athletes find their muscles burning when doing these classes. So if you are looking to tighten your derriere, elongate your muscles, and improve your posture, check out barre classes. They may be perfect for you. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck and Dynamic Women, and we are visiting today with Kathy from Texas, Frankie from Toronto, Linda from Washington, D.C., and Amanda from Denver. Now, typical in the show, during the commercial break, we yak even more than we do on the air. And what we were talking about was how unique everybody is. I think at our core, we all know we're very different, but society tells us we must homogenize. You know, we must wear these clothes to be beautiful. We must wear this perfume or makeup to be alluring. And I think as we get older and we become more authentic, we're willing to allow people to see who we really are. Like I fully acknowledge that I don't feel things like the rest of the world. I don't see things like the rest of the world. And I don't interpret things the same way. My brain works very differently. And that used to be a secret source of shame to me as a kid. Now I realize, wow, it's kind of the key to my success. And people will accept me the way I am and sometimes even like it. And one of the things that I love to do is play brain games. I like to see what my brain can do, whether it's those pictures that you see on the internet, you kind of stare and cross your eyes until something appears, or, do you see a young woman or an old lady? Like, I like those things, but I know that there's intuitive brain games we can play. And so, Frankie, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, I started to talk about them earlier in the show when I said that, you can just test everything for yourself, really, as a game. But one thing that I do animal communication, and in a way that's intuition as well. And so when you connect with an animal, you will tell the owner, because they'll call and say, what's wrong with my dog? And you'll say, well, your dog's got this or that. But the animal will tell you stuff. And so I had a cat from England who told me that she really liked when her owner played the piano at night. And she really liked, when they fed her a certain food. And I was able to relay that back to the owner. And they said, oh my God, I'm a concert pianist. And like, Bob, I had no idea, right? Like, I didn't know that. But so you can trust the messages that you're getting from these animals because the owners are saying, yes, that's true. And that's so cool when that happens. So that's one thing that you can do. You can pretend, with your friends even, connect with their animals and see if you can figure out what they're telling you, and then ask the owner if that's true.
Well, Frankie, I just love your paintings. I just want to throw that in. I've been enjoying them so much, the ones you've been posting on Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
And
thank you.
I can see the intuition in them. I mean, sometimes they have children in them too, but you're really catching the dynamic, sort of emotional, spiritual part of the physical. When you paint, I just wanted to throw that in there to commend you and tell you how much I'm enjoying those.
Thank you. Because, one of the owners told me the other day, the last one I did, he said, you captured my dog's soul. I mean, I never even met his dog. Wow. And that's like so amazing to me. So that was awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
I just love it.
I look forward to checking them out. That seems like such an amazing gift to be able to see, to get that from the animal. And we sadly lost our dog last year. And I remember, though, when you do tune in, they do give you messages. It's like you can kind of tell by looking in their eyes. You can feel what they're saying. And I remember, like, when she got sick, she was like telling me with her eyes. I was like, I need to call the vet. And it was just like her message to me. But I also want to just touch back a minute. You were just talking about how, Sandra, about how when you are really being true to yourself and like allowing yourself to be who you are versus the homogenized version. And I thought about like how that relates to intuition. And I was thinking about my daughter because she had a ballet recital this past weekend. And the day before we had gone to a fair and she had face paint and tattoos everywhere. And I was like, oh, tonight we're going to have to wash that off. And because you have the recital tomorrow. And, unfortunately in the recital, you got to look like all the other girls in the recital. She's like, but I don't want to look like everybody else, Mommy.
Yeah.
Aww.
But I remember, like, as a kid feeling that, too, of, like, when you're being forced to kind of fit into a mold that doesn't feel like you and how that can be so painful. And you realize that you're not being true to your intuition. So I think, when you don't listen, like, what happens then? So anyways, I think that's another way to play into it is, like, really feeling when you've made a decision, how do you feel about it afterwards? Are you feeling like it was a connected decision? Are you feeling like that is aligned to who you are? Or are you feeling like it really was painful or made you feel uncomfortable or, that kind of, what emotions you're feeling afterwards is another way to tune into, was that listening to my own intuition or was I not listening?
Well, and I think, when you were talking about that, I was brought back to my fifth grade class with Mrs. Archibald. And I used to write this I used to write these poems that, were so odd and so different. And she was like, I know when we were doing Wordsworth or like Nature's First Green is Gold, Her Heart is Hue to Hold, whoever wrote that. I remember we were doing that at that time. And I'm like, I didn't want to write about leaves and I didn't want to write about nature. I wanted to write about what I wanted to write about. And she, drilled into me and she's like, you need to do this. So the poem I turned in was, I won't do what you want. You can cry, you can plead, you can stab yourself deeply and bleed and bleed and bleed. And to this day, I can see her like standing up there, Mrs. Archibald, with this like, she was old and she had like this frizzy black hair and this white skin. And her face was so red. Like all I can think is mottled with rage. Like, and I just sat there thinking, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. Of course I got an F and had to go to the school psychologist, but I still
which will be another show.
Firm to art has to be an expression, and your intuition, kind of goes along with that. And I still feel like, 45 years later or 40 years later, I did the right thing.
You did do the right thing for yourself, but intuitively, if you had listened to your intuition, you might not have handed that one in.
At least for her not to read out loud.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I think we tend to play some games with our intuition, and it's not psych ops. It's just that I do something, for example, when I'm waiting in the grocery store line, and you know how we observe people, that is, if they're not watching their phones or you're watching yours, but that's another story. But I do think that you sort of form an opinion about, if I'm going to talk to this person, I think they'll talk to me, or I might get a smile from them, or I'll get a comment back, or it'll start a small conversation that brightens everybody's day, because who doesn't want to be engaged these days? We are so at arm's length with one another. So I'll stand in a grocery store line and take a look at someone's face, and I will engage. And I am right 95% of the time. We both leave smiling, and it was nothing big. It was just an outreach. And so the intuition is that people need to be touched by words or a smile, and that it makes a big difference, because it's been very rare that I was completely rebuffed or they didn't say anything. And when it did happen that way, I kind of just laughed, because, okay, that's their loss, because I'm really quite charming and unique, as Frankie said. So that's just a game I play with intuition. Do you guys play games?
Linda, I love it that you're playing the game of initiating friendships with other people just as you go through your day.
But I'm an introvert. That's what is very unusual.
I love it even more. I'm an extrovert, so that's just what I do. And I know people will reject me, and knowing that, I still go, I take a counterintuitive moment and I go anyway into that initiating conversation and really joy with other people.
Right.
And I had somebody, and I bet she was an introvert, but when we were done, when we initially started the conversation, I could tell she was shut down. When we were done, she was saying to me, "You made my day."
Right.
I thought, oh my gosh, that was such a simple thing for me. If that really made her day, if that was the best moment of her day, because I was a happy customer, that I just wanted her to have that. You know what I mean? And so even though it was counterintuitive for me, because I knew intuitively that she was shut down, I also went ahead and moved into that space. And I think Amanda's right. Sometimes our emotions afterwards give us a clue. But I think for me, sometimes I just need to punch pause and revert to humor, not to misuse humor, but just to recognize myself. If I take things too seriously and my intuition is so serious all the time, then it's probably not functioning well. And I need to take a step back and find some humor in my life. And that helps me kind of regain a balance. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. Humor helps me.
Humor's huge. We all need to have humor in our life.
We all need humor.
And I was going to bring up something real quick, because it is near the end of the show, and I want to talk about fear for a moment, fear and intuition, because sometimes our head gives us that fear, and our intuition will let us know that it's not correct. Right. And that's really important to listen to, especially in today. society today when there's bombs going off everywhere and we fear certain groups of people that we don't necessarily need to fear, but we do because, the news has put it in our brains. And so we really need to find a way to connect with our intuition instead of our head, because our intuition will give us the truth. I can't stress that one enough.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody ever left like a plane or car, somewhere because
yes. Yes.
And you were safe because of it?
And I was safe because of it.
Yeah.
I was it's frightening. The plane went down. It was in Chicago. I was running for a gate, and I had someone babysitting my children. My husband was away at the time too, and I had the option to go on or to, wait, mm-hmm. and I waited, and I'm so glad I did, because the phone calls started coming in. Are you okay? And no, that was pure intuition. And in my thinking, because I believe it was God telling me not to do that, it was definitely a moment that I'm so grateful for, because no one survived that crash.
Wow.
And it was haunting. And for a while I only got on propeller planes because they can glide.
Yeah.
And I was flying locally. And so I really did. I took local flights instead of the jets for probably about 3 or 4 months. You know why? My children were so frightened.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, it's safe. Statistically it's safe. But intuition is so valuable to all of us. And you have all told about how important it has been in your lives. And sometimes it's survival, and other times it's just a good decision. And we have to pay attention to the good and the bad intuition that comes our way, because I think we really are amazing beings that are gifted with so much. I want to thank all of you for participating today in this very interesting discussion. Kathy and Amanda and Frankie and Sandra and I, we just love these shows because it's a wonderful way to share our opinions. And if you want more information, go to dynamicwomentalkradio.com and you'll find more shows. And it is such a delight to talk to people with differing opinions, and we are all unique and rather funny as well. So we will be back next week. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for tuning in today to Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and join us each week. You can find more shows on dynamicwomentalkradio.com.